Kazakhstan is a large country, rich in beautiful landscapes, nature reserves and natural monuments. So for avid travelers who like to discover remote, inaccessible corners, there is a good choice here. Today in our program we talk about the most beautiful and interesting sites on the banks of one of the largest rivers of Kazakhstan, the Ili River. It originates at the glaciers of Tyan Shan at the place of the inflow of the Kunges and Tekes rivers. The Ili flows through the mountains and across the valleys of both Kazakhstan and China. The highest point of the river valley is a mount that is 6,350 meters high in the Agiaz ravine on the territory of China. Back in the early 20th century, the river used to be a busy route from western China. Today, this site is popular with ecotourists, especially with those who love adventures like sailing on rafts down the Ili towards Lake Balkhash. From the south, the River Charyn flows into the Ili. The former is famous for its canyon. Not far from the inflow of the Charyn, there is the famous sandy singing dune. And down the Kapchagai Dam, there are Tamgaly rocks popular with mountaineers. On the right bank of the Ili, up the Kapchagai Lake, is National Park Altyn Yemel, where the populations of the onager and the Przhevalsky horse are being revived. But let's talk about it in detail. State National Park Altyn Yemel was set up in 1996 on the basis of the Kapchagai State Nature Reserve. It is situated in the area of the Khyber and Panfilov counties of the Almaty region. The total area of the national park is 459,000 hectares, and this includes the northern part of Lake Kapchagai and the right bank of the Ili, as well as the hills of the small and big Kalkane, Aktau, Katutau, and the most remote edges of Zhungar Alatau, Sholak Degeres, and Matai. It extends towards the southern ridge of Altyn Yemel, part of the Koyandetau ridge, and the valley of Kunerulen. And this is the unique natural phenomenon, the singing dune. It has been formed as a result of the wind sweeping the sands of the sandbanks of Ili. The winds blowing between the ridges of Zhungar Alatau, the big and small Kalkans, the Bogoti and Suyugati mountains are adverse. Coming across an arc of rocks, on their way these winds die out and the sand particles settle. For thousands of years, this barkhan, which stretches for 3 kilometers, and which is 150 meters high, has remained at the same place. From time to time, considerable amounts of sands slide off the hill and they resemble snow avalanches. In dry weather, when sand grains shuffle down the slopes, they emit sounds that may be compared to whistling, barking or roaring. One may have a feeling that somewhere nearby aircraft has just taken off. The singing sands have always fired people's imagination. According to legends, the sands have the singing effect due to the spirits of the desert, imaginary animals and underground rivers. In a few kilometers from the singing dune, there is a little drying lake. It is in this state because of a significant drop in the water level of the main river stream. This resulted in isolating this little water body. The trees have got dry and now look like the mysterious Japanese bonsai trees. A flock of cormorants have colonized these trees and made them their home. Some of them, apparently, have had their young. Down the dune, one can find beautiful and gracious swans. The park has abundant fauna. Very few people know that the Ili is rich in wild animals, and some of them are extremely rare. Nobody has ever made any photos of the Central Asian otter here by the Ili River, as this animal is very cautious. In the thick bushes of Turanga, Saksao, Chengil and tamarisks, one may bump into wild boar, fox and other rare species. The goiter-red gazelle inhabits sands and gravel plains and limestone plateau. The animals live on the local vegetation. The gazelle is extremely cautious and careful. When disturbed, it runs away, increasing the speed up to 62 km an hour. But the animal can keep this speed only for a few minutes, and even a minor hazard makes the animal escape. When running, the gazelle keeps its head and tail up, making large jumps. This makes the gazelle different from the saiga antelope that runs away by making a vertical jump and fleeing with its head down. The goiter-red gazelle is a herd animal. They start to gather in herds from late August through September. From January to February, their herds are particularly large. These large groups begin to gradually break up from March through April, when pregnant females leave the herd. Later, young males and females also disbanded in groups of 7 to 12 species. In the summer, females are with their young, and lone males are either on their own or in small herds that consist of them, young female gazelles and young adult species. The Ili above Kapchagai is very sparsely populated. On the right bank, down the river, are Aktau and Katitau mountains, and further down are the big and small Kalkans, and on the left there are inaccessible cane floodplains. The chalky mountains of Aktau were formed by the sediments during the Cenozoic era. The mountains are characterized by smooth surface and steep slopes. Intensive erosion, rain and mudslides have caused the breaking of the rocks and have served as sculptors of these unique mountains. What a fantastic landscape! In the distant past, this used to be a bed of the Tekes Ocean. The rock sediments have settled in such a way that today, away from seas and oceans, chalky mountains rise, brightly colored with different hues and shades. The rocks are rich in quartz, jasper and cornelian. The mountains have large cracks and numerous ravines and stone galleries. From the top of the bottom, the rocks look like multi-layered pies. The labyrinths have been made smooth with wind and rain, as the rock texture is soft. So they look peculiar. The labyrinths are difficult to get through in places, but sometimes they go so wide that a small group of people squeeze in. Aktau is a unique and well-known paleontological site worldwide. There have been discovered 56 kinds of the flora of the early Miocene period, such as pines, birch trees, alder, oaks, walnut, chestnut, linden trees, hackberries, pistachio trees, ailanthus, and many others. In the layers of Paleogene-Neogene, there are fossilized remains of prehistoric animals such as crocodiles, turtles, gigantic rhinoceros, and primitive predators. Despite the fact that the fossils are 25 to 30 million years old, they are in good conditions. The Katitau Mountains stretch from southwest to northwest as a narrow ridge of hills. The slopes are divided with a lot of dry ravines that are large and small. The rocks are brightly colored with inclusions of red clay and blue-gray limestone. These huge stones are the results of volcanic activity. The peculiar forms of the rocks bring a unique look to the whole landscape. In the cool shade of the stone niches, one can hide from the summer heat. The rocks, that are in fact still lava, resemble large lizards and dinosaurs, and this natural monument looks like a giant snakehead. In the valley below the mountains, on the right shore of the Kapchagai Lake, rise numerous kurgans. These are the tombs of the sacked Tsars, Przhevalsky, that date back in the 7th to the 6th century AD. In the gorges and caves, there are drawings that are carved on the rocks. They show different animals and some scenes of hunting for them. Such drawings are also found down the River Ili. Tamgaly is well known for prehistoric pictures on stones. Here, these rocks are known as pisany rocks, which means rocks with drawings. Here, you come across an open-air temple. The rocks keep ancient petroglyphs, drawings of gods, and late Buddhist scripts. Archaeologists have counted about 1,000 rock drawings, and the most distinct of them is the drawing of Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha of the eternal light, Amitabha, and Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, God of mercy that knows no bounds. Apart from Buddhist drawings and scripts, there is a stone covered with old Turk runic scripts that were made in the 8th to the 9th centuries. Scientists say it was quite probable that one of the Buddhist missions had to stop here during their journey to Jetesu. According to one legend, there was an earthquake and a part of rock broke off. The Buddhists interpreted this as a sign from spirits suggesting that they go back to India. The place of the smooth break is covered with an image of Buddha. Another version is that the drawings of Buddha might have been left by the nomadic Mongols. The drawings were first studied by archaeologists in the late 19th century. Researcher and traveler Chokhan Balikhanov made sketches of the site, and Alexei Poznev, researcher specializing in Mongol studies, sent his descriptions of the place to the Izvestia newspaper that was issued by the Russian Geographic Society. Tamgaly is a cultural monument that is protected by the government of Kazakhstan. Italian archaeologist Renato Sala wrote, "Tamgaly is an extremely rare monument. This was a sacred Buddhist temple that was used for praise and meditations. Analogous drawings were found in Kyrgyzia, China, Tibet, Pakistan, and the origin of Buddhism in India." The River Ili ends where it flows into unique Lake Balkhash, making the lake quite desalinated. The Ili forms a wide delta which is a home for hundreds of kinds of animals, birds and fish species.